A lot of gaming news again. A lot. I don't know
Yeah,
where to start this
it'll.
time.
Yeah, the gaming news will never. Oh,
And there's
oh.
Luke.
Exact timing. We just started recording.
Oh, okay. So what's the topic?
This is a gaming podcast.
Gaming news.
Okay. I can pop in for a bit, give my take, but then I'll probably have to go and do dinner.
All right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You can start then. We were wondering where to start. Go ahead. What do you want to talk about?
So what is what? I mean, I guess the topic could be like the discussion on the live action Legend of Zelda.
That's a good place
Sure.
to start, actually. So I know a bit more about this director slash lead as a Spider-Man fan. And do you guys remember Bully Maguire?
Yeah.
You mean
This-
Tobey Maguire?
No. Specifically, Bully Maguire. The
This.
direction for the character of Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3 is solely dedicated to AVI Red.
I'm just looking at it now, and I'm just like, what the?
So this is why Spider-Man 3's script was such a mess, and the directionality of the Amazing Spider-Man films slash Sonyverse. You can dedicate that to this director. That's why I'm like lukewarm on this one. Like, I hope it's good. Like, I want to see more success for the Nintendo movies and all of that. But like, as a Spider-Man fan, I'm just like, Vietnam flashbacks. Please don't.
Well, there was apparently another Legend of Zelda film called The Hero of Time in 2009, but I don't know if that was real or not.
That was a April Fool's joke.
All right.
That was an old IGN April Fool's joke, if I remember right.
I'm trying to find it now. But no, it's still on an IMDb page.
Or it might be a fan project. I don't remember. I saw it in a old like April Fool's list of things back in the day. They might have just picked the poster for it. But anyway, like that's like the knowledge I have to give to it. I figure this will be like Party James, you were saying. Before I respond to Red's voice message here, we know that they're going to take the safest route possible with their IP, almost like a Chat GPT-esque script writing process. They're going to want to play everything safe. After we saw the Super Mario movie, it was a massive success. They don't want to let that down, so they'll want to keep that momentum going, and in that same tone and direction is how we'll see things take place. I feel like I kind of want to see Timothy Shamalama Ding Dong as Link. I cannot say his last name for the life of me. The dude who is playing Wonka in the new Willy Wonka. I want to see him as
okay.
Link.
Okay, just to clarify about that film, it was a fan project, but it is on YouTube. It's like an hour and 45.
Okay.
You know what? Let's do a Twitch movie night with that.
I'll send it in. I'll send it in the
right?
mod
That's
stuff.
how that works. That's how Sniper Wolf keeps in business, right?
There we go.
We did try to do some reaction stuff before. Let's see if we can actually monetize anything off of it. Anyway, what I wanted to say with the movie, because Vex and I were kind of prepping like discussion topics before we recorded. What we didn't prep was for Luke surprising us here, so that was nice.
I was literally taking a nap and then I saw the notification on my phone, so I thought, I'll get up because it's been quite a day for me, as you are well aware.
Yeah. But for this movie, what I was telling Vex was that like a lot of what the Mario movie did was very by the books, and we can expect most of the major plot lines to be what we predict. And we were gonna have like one of our other Controlled Chaos hosts who is a little more familiar with Zelda, like come in and give his thoughts and like predictions. But I feel like the predictions are gonna be it's like okay, Ganondorf's gonna be a villain, Zelda's gonna be involved. maybe in a similar role to what Peach had in the Mario movie. And then like Link, I mean, more than likely, is the weirder thing will be having a voice possibly. Because it's hard to be like, are you going to have like a mute character the entire movie? I mean, they could try to play around with that, but
I
really, I
mean,
feel that's almost too creative for Nintendo. And considering what Mario did, I think Link will just talk.
it's not possible. I mean, there have been movies out there where they've had main characters which have been muted.
I'm sure it's possible, but I don't think Nintendo will take like that extreme a creative direction with it. I think they're just going to bank on the lore and world building they have established with Zelda.
Unless the actual plot of the film is actually Link finding his voice.
Oh, that would be fun, actually. But nah, it's probably just gonna be Master Sword Triforce like usual. And I'm interested. I feel like Zelda has enough content that they can easily make like a pretty basic movie out of it. I'm not actually not even that worried with the director involved because, like, one, to my knowledge, and I'm less familiar with Spider-Man, but I believe that man was involved in multiple Spider-Man projects. I think he was also like tangentially involved with even the recent Spider-Verse. Um, and on top of that, Nintendo like is going to be like heavily involved. I mean, the fact that they worked with Illumination to make a good movie, I think they'll be fine with just this director.
I mean,
So
like, Illumination is successful in their own right. It's just like we're definitely not their target demographic. I know a lot of people clown on them, but I find their movies to be, at least from an animation wise, like not great, but like plot wise, they have a lot of like good stuff in there. Because I like the first couple of the Despicable Me movies. But it's a mess.
Yeah, I watched them. They're good for a casual watch.
The
for sure.
only one that I'm fairly interested in is the third one, primarily because it's got Trey Parker in it.
I mean, how can you not love the fact that the Minions potentially did both World War II and 9/11?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta love those jokes.
Well, I'm looking at the director for the Zelda film, and he's done the entire Maze Runner trilogy. So, and he's doing the new Planet of the Apes film. So, he's got some credentials under his belt.
Would it put the Maze Runner movies on the pinnacle of film list either?
Yeah, I know you wouldn't, but
I mean, they
just,
work for
what
I'm
they
just
are.
like, yeah, they work for what they are, and looking at the general critical reception, they're mostly positive, mixed to positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
I mean,
Yeah, so I think
they work for what they are, essentially, kind of films. A little below like Hunger Games adaptations, basically. But yeah, go ahead.
the Hunger Games movies were pretty decent until they like stretched out the last like movie
and decided to do a prequel. 10 years later.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. But yeah, so I'm not too worried about the Zelda movie. I think it'll be good. I think it'll just sell really well in the name of its own. And as I've said on socials before, like this feels like these years have been like the transition point from like superhero movies to the video game era of movies. We have like some of the biggest titles being like these video game adaptations that are actually pretty decent. I'm looking forward to this as another continuation of that.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with video game adaptations is that in the past they've either tried to be like too much like a movie instead of like a game, or too much like the game instead of like a movie. There's never been like a really good balance, and it seems like we're getting that now because we've had like the Mario movies, Sonic, and Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
And that's not like we don't have like bad or worse ones like with Uncharted. And I kind of like the Tomb Raider ones, but I mean the fact that I didn't realize that it came out until like a year afterwards when I just found some random video that was talking about it, it means that it didn't have like the best reception.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like, also, like, in that same regard, we had, like, during COVID, we had the Mortal Kombat reboot where, like, they treated the audience like they were stupid, but also wanted to treat them as if they were, like, the smartest thing on the planet because they had, like, little nods and Easter eggs to, like, hardcore fans, but they treated them stupidly because they had like a audience insert character, and I believe his name was Cole, the hero in it. Where they had like Johnny Cage right there was supposed to be the everyman for anybody from the franchise anyway, right? So why not utilize him and do the hero's journey through a character that's already established? So like there's still the potential for it, like video game movies to flop in that regard too. I'm hoping like we don't have like Link and Zelda be in the background of this. Obviously, like Nintendo's like really restrictive with their IPs, like post Philips CDI era. So they're not gonna fuck it up that bad. And Miyamoto's like involved in the main production of it as well because it's his baby. So like we're at least good in that regard. But I don't have 100% faith in live action. I feel like animation would have worked better for this, but maybe that's just like my 2 cents in it. Which is the point of a podcast, right? Like our 2 cents in the whole discussion.
Yeah.
I think.
Like,
go ahead.
I want to see a competent cast if they're doing live action. I don't want them to like throw jokesters in there like a Jack Black or a Chris Pratt in there, like just big names to sell tickets. I want them to put the best people in there for the role and not treat it like it's going to be a Hollywood blockbuster on the scale of like a fucking Avengers movie or something, right? That's what I want out of it.
I mean, I think that there will be some of that just because like the industry, like as much as like of course video game fans will like come up to watch it, and there to appeal to a larger audience you usually just have a well-known actor for like the casual mass appeal. So I think there'll be some, but I think as long as what like I enjoyed that the Sonic movies did is that they picked actors who were good fits for the role. Like we had like Idris Elba playing Knuckles, largely because like he was a big name after his recent roles in the DC films. But he was also like a really good fit for the character. He was able to perform well. So I think if they do that, it's workable. I mean, but at the same time, like after the Mario movie, I feel like it is. I think what's going to happen is they are just going to bring in just big names, just like the way they did there. But it could still work out
and then you have people saying like, "Oh, I'm not going to watch it in English because of the celebrities. I'm going to wait for the Japanese with subtitles." I'm not even kidding. That's what some people did with the Mario film.
That doesn't even make sense. Nobody watches like Mario for the story. It's not like an anime where it's like I need to listen to this dialogue. Like Mario, like with Sonic characters, for example, like there's a lot of like dialogue there. So like the voice decisions and directions is like a huge point of topic and debate. And I'll have more to say about Sonic in general. Like, well, maybe after Luke's done, just to give him time to talk about stuff. But like in Mario, like the characters barely say anything. So I don't know why people would be that concerned about it.
Yeah. But I think it's just because of the... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment one last thing that I think live action might work for Zelda. I mean, with Mario, like it would have been too weird, especially after what we saw last time. But Zelda, I think, much like even with Death Note, I think they're a series that could theoretically work in live action. It's just that, like with anything, it's easy to mess up. But it's also kind of funny to me that like we saw like I think it was a Smash Bros advert, like a really cool animation with like Zelda that would makes it seem like, oh man, a Zelda anime would go really good, but it's like Zelda's coming in every form except in anime. Okay, anyway, go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like what probably could work for a live action Zelda is if they did it in live action, but like had if they kind of did it sort of like with the way of how the Lord of the Rings was adapted, where it's like, yeah, it's live action, but you have elements of CGI in there as well. But there's one character that I hope is not in there. I think you know who I'm thinking about.
The Korok?
No. Hey, listen.
Jingle?
Hey,
oh, Navi.
listen. Hey, listen.
You know,
No, they gotta have like at least one joke with Navi in it.
I mean, they had the
Or they
Luma
could bring
be
in
on the
Fi. I
like
want Fi back. That would be even funnier.
like please make the Navi like the fucking Luma in the Mario movie where it's just all like existential and like basically I'm the millennial insert. That's
I
my
would
favorite
like
part.
that, but I also feel like if they did it, it would be like, okay, is every Nintendo movie gonna have one Doomer in it? And I'm like, you know what? Yeah,
Have you
that's the
seen the
thing.
lore of the average Nintendo universe?
I mean, yeah, I mean that's fair. I mean, with like Zelda, especially, like that is one thing I will say. I know you did bring up like hopefully they don't bring jokesters, but I do genuinely hope they take Zelda's story a little more seriously. Because
Yeah,
like while there's a lot of goofy stuff in there, the actual story and lore is like pretty genuinely like messed up. So
Yeah, for
I would love
sure.
if they
yeah.
dig into that.
I think the way they could do it, because this has never been in a game before, is if you remember the backstory for A Link to the Past, where they're talking about like seeing in grey, seeing in grey, like the what was it again? Let me get up that backstory. But there was a backstory in Links to the Past that you never that it was just all text. I feel like that could potentially be the route that they take, because it's never been a game before, and it's like and it could be like its own unique adventure, because that's the advantage they have as opposed to Mario or Sonic, is that each Legend of Zelda is a different story, so it's its own self-contained story. So you don't really have to like worry about like, oh, why isn't this character showing up? Why is this character showing up? It could just be like its own separate adventure from the games.
That's
Yeah, I mean, it's also like probably like the one series where they could connect it just because it's like a whole other reincarnation. But yeah, you're right.
that's yeah, like I'm torn there because like then people will be tearing apart like the timeline that Nintendo just like haphazardly adopted from the fans because they're like no real plan originally to make them like interconnected or timeline wise.
All right, I am gonna all right, I'm gonna mute myself for a bit because I've got stuff to do. So you two carry on.
Okay.
Uh,
But like I feel like at that point we'll just see fans picking it apart. But at the same time like I like Luke's idea there of like having it like each reincarnation of like Link and Zelda be like its own universe or its own like feel. Um but I don't want to sit and watch the internet tear apart to a MatPat level every single video or every show or every movie that they make of this. And we know the internet's going to do that regardless to at least some extent. I mean, there were like
yeah.
a minimum of 50 videos on YouTube the day Mario came out. So it's essentially like unavoidable. At the same time, like
Yeah, with Zelda, I assume that they have more of a plan, but then I still don't understand even fully how the last two Zelda games like tie in together. So, yeah, I mean, I can't say I've like paid full attention to the Zelda lore, and I doubt the majority of people will care.
I doubt Nintendo pays attention to Nintendo lore. And I don't say that to be mean to Nintendo purists. I say that as the fact that they exist solely to sell units. That is
Yeah.
like having a cohesive story has never been the strong suit of Nintendo. You sit down for 5 minutes and you can tear apart most things to like these two things don't interact level. And that's why like fans started cobbling together the timeline that kind of got adopted in the Hyrule Historia. I'm not the Zelda fan. Red's the Zelda fan. I wish he was here for this, but he's busy working on getting Digital Circus to actually sit on YouTube right now because it doesn't want to fucking upload. It's been sitting at 75% for the last 2.5 hours.
Oh, jeez.
So like, I don't know what's going on there. But there's a funny thing to me in all of this, right? Is like I remember that like fan animation for the like Smash Brothers universe, right? If we're not going to have
Yep.
an anime for, Zelda, I want one for Kid Icarus.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Especially because, like, at least with this, Sakurai would hopefully be able to like be involved with something without being, like super involved, where his health is in jeopardy.
Right. No,
So
like I look to universes to see like what works with what, right? Because obviously we're going to inevitably go down this path of like connecting all these universes because Smash Brothers is the biggest IP for Nintendo. And it is its own IP regardless of the fact there's a crossover. Because they treat it as such, right? So I feel like Kid Icarus works for an anime because of how diverse their enemy base is in that universe, right? Because you see so many wacky things, especially if like they do something with like Uprising. Do you remember how fucking insane some of those enemy designs are?
yeah, and it's like definitely like goofy enough for them to just like really get into the anime. The dialogue itself,
Exactly.
um, like there's no way you could take that like super seriously, like in a live action sense.
It would have to be animated. Kirby would obviously have to be animated.
Well, yeah, I mean the Kirby they have animes for, so they have a good template for
Yeah.
Kirby.
I feel like things like Metroid would work good in live action.
Yeah, I could see that.
Fire Emblem,
I mean, it's
live
literally
action.
like Ridley itself is like named after Ridley Scott for
Right.
it's for a reason.
Right, like
Very alien inspired.
so like Fire Emblem live action would work. I feel like anime fits better because of like you have the pretty boy trope going constantly, right? So there's
Yeah, and there was a Fire Emblem anime, so again, precedent.
Mm-hmm. So like you could do that. Um, and then the only other one we already have a fucking movie for, but it's not like in the universe of the Nintendo Cinematic Universe, the NCU. Uh, I just made that joke. But like we have a Detective Pikachu movie. Obviously Pikachu was the other like main cast member for the original Smash Brothers. You could live action and or you could anime it and it would fit perfectly fine. I love the animation style for the anthropomorphic like Pokemon that they did and Detective Pikachu. I feel like that works really well. Little
And yeah,
CGI
definitely
fuzzy.
don't make a live action DK if we're just going through all the Smash Bros. Roster.
Like, please don't. The internet couldn't handle it. And we already have like an animated Donkey Kong from the Mario movie, so why waste the resources? Just asset flip that shit. Animations.
Yeah, true.
Animators' wet dream is just like easy reuse animations. That's like why a lot of films just have like references. You could see the same, and that's one of my favorite things to do is like go through and like, oh, that was reused from this thing, and you could find it from everywhere from freaking the Age of Snow White on down, right? People reuse those animations constantly. So we could just reuse the model for DK, throw it into DK's forest or whatever, and be calling it a day. And I wonder like what we would do from there, right? Because if we have a successful launch pad with all of those, would we go down and continue capturing other Smash Brother universes and then adding them in like we did with Melee and Brawl and then Ultimate? Because at that
I mean,
point,
I guess theoretically that would be the way to go.
I'm leading
But I
this
also
into
want to
a.
point out that
Go
I
ahead.
want to point out that like for some people they don't even like necessarily want a Smash Bros movie to begin with, but I also feel like very inevitable.
I'm leading this
Like
in
even
a.
if they don't call it that, but I feel like they'll
Yeah.
also just call it that.
I'm leading this in a very pointed direction. Uh, for my own self-serving ass here, because that means we finally get the Kingdom Hearts anime, maybe.
Ah. I mean, like that requires a lot of sign off from Disney and maybe Square also. So
Well, I am a delusional bitch here, and I know this is never going to fucking happen. Um, because there's no way in hell we're going to ever see, Tarzan's rights be utilized in that regard. That's why we've never had him come back. Because I was one that was like originally kind of fair use and then wasn't fair use after a while. Um, and then the likelihood of seeing some of the more obscure Disney movies coming back in any regards is a big no-go. But I also think that Disney likes money. So maybe we could see that happen in some capacity. Even if it's just like for like 30 seconds of footage for Kingdom Hearts, Sora and Friends with Hercules, because that's the reused world and everyone. We could maybe see that.
I mean, to be fair, I guess like if I'm right about like the hero genre like slowly dying out now, they could just switch focuses from Marvel to it's like what else can we do with the video games? It's like, oh, we did this Kingdom Hearts thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like, I don't know how much of it is like really superhero fatigue, and we talked about this a little bit in another podcast. But I feel like a lot of it's like Marvel fatigue. That's just my
like the DC movies haven't been doing great either, so it's like I don't know. And yeah, we did talk about this before that there's like other hero properties that have been doing well. And so it is maybe just like I think specifically movies is I guess what I'm referring to. Because like going to see like a cinematic universe like now and interconnect with so many other TV shows is like too much.
Exactly. But the reason I bring that up is because I know you're not the big Kingdom Hearts fan. This is like a area where Ann Arbor would be perfect to pop in. But there was originally a pilot for a Kingdom Hearts show that was being tested. And it leaked around like peak COVID. Like the animator like finally was able to put it out there, and then it eventually got like cease and desist from Disney. So it kind of led into like some fan theories that maybe it's something that they're working on in the background and they don't want you to know about. Maybe they're like working on a newer version. So like a lot of people just were like, well, this is lost media, so we're going to archive it. I think it's still up on like archive.org if you really want to do a lot of digging. But I have it downloaded because I was smart and realized Disney is not going to play ball. Even if they say you can do the thing, they're not going to let you do the thing. Kind of why I snagged the Daredevil game that came out recently that was like originally thought to be lost media as well. I'm like, I don't trust Marvel to not do this, so I'm just going to download the archive.org link of that too. Because I believe heavily in like preservation of media, so like having an archive of it, for myself, just to even goof around with is fun.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing and a topic we'll actually come back to in like a later thing once we finish up with this.
Yeah. But,
and although we kind of got really off tangent with like the Zelda movie, but yeah.
Well, I mean, like that's where it seems like the direction is going, from like a fan perspective. But like the last thing I really want to say in Zelda is like I'm curious how they'll handle certain characters, because this fully live action, we're not going to have fully live action, because like you can't do characters like a Goron and live action. You would have to like CGI them, or like, they would have to lean heavily into like practical effects, right? And
yep.
Why
that'll be interesting to see. I mean, I guess though some species will be easier to do, like the Zora. But yeah. So I will be interested how they handle it. But I think a CGI hybrid is possible, and I don't see why not. I mean, Sonic managed to do it effectively, so I don't see why Zelda couldn't, as long as there are like competent people behind the CG.
I think like the other one that would be really interesting is, this is just from like a furry perspective, right? Is characters like Rivali, right? Because you've seen birds done good, and you've seen birds done horribly in animation, right?
Yeah. So that will be a definitely interesting one. But it also depends what kind of story they're telling, because
Yeah, I forget the species that Rivali is. And I know that's
because I don't think we've seen the bird species too much
Right.
in the Zelda. That's why I didn't really bring up Rivali, because like when I was also thinking of those characters from Breath of the Wild, but then it's like Zora, Gordon, like they were like somewhat in the early games, but I
Yeah.
don't think I remember the birds. I mean, I guess there were like some bird species in what was
Skyward
that one
Sword,
game? Yeah.
and like characters like enemies like the Octorok. That's fairly simple to like CGI because we've seen octopi constantly in even horror movies.
Yeah, and there's a good chance they'll just do like Zelda 1 style, which wasn't much of a story, but that also would probably make it a perfect candidate for a movie. But then if they want to go like really big with the narrative, it would probably be something like Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess.
If it does, if they do like early one, if it doesn't open up, it's dangerous to go alone, take this kind of thing, and then you don't hear Starbomb playing in the background. I'm walking out of the theater.
Oh, Starbomb. Yeah, that'd be perfect.
It's not happening. We're not having like a dick reference in the first, Zelda movie, but like that's all I think of. That's all I think of when I think of early Zelda now, and Starbomb is to blame.
Yeah. I do miss Starbomb. That was a great group. But yeah, I think that's it for Zelda.
Yeah.
That was more than I was expecting us to talk about with the movie.
Honestly, 30 minutes of Zelda talk is impressive for people who don't really play a lot.
That could have just been a whole thing by itself.
It could have been. I could split the video here, but I'm not going to because this is just going to be one upload.
Yep. Yeah. So
I think Embracer.
Luke, if he comes back, we'll come back. Oh yeah. Go Embracer.
Yeah. Because this one just happened today before we started filming. Reject all cookies, so I could read the main article. Video Game Chronicles. So Embracer's been putting out a lot of studios, right? Recently, because they've been restructuring because they didn't secure the bag in that last acquisition target. And this is what makes like these massive acquisition firms like Tencent and Embracer so dangerous for the industry. Like I remember like during COVID they went on like a buying spree, rivaling Microsoft. And then I'm like, this is going to implode eventually, and I was right. Because now we have Volition was the first one to go, right? Saints Row developer.
Yeah, I think so.
You can say what you will about the Saints Row reboot. I'm sure the comments for that, if there are any that weigh into that, will be lovely, lovely comments. We have Campfire Cabal, which is another studio, I believe, not publisher. Never really heard of that one. I gotta do like I can Google here for that one.
Okay. Well, while Vex does that, the other big things that are going on with Embracer right now is the fact that their CEO had to recently step down, and that was before a bunch of like studios were like had to be like let go of people. And this morning we heard that there was like another studio, that article I pulled or that we posted in our Discord server, which I guess there's a plug for the Discord server.
Right.
Their studio that did Time Splitters had closure. So basically we're seeing like a lot of Embracers decisions like coming back to bite them just because they were not ready, and like all the IPs and acquisitions they have are in trouble. And I guess what's concerning is it's like, well, there are like so many projects in the work. Like I brought up Tomb Raider earlier in the discussion with the movie, and I mean they do have like a sequel that was kind of put on hold because of the 2020 crisis. And because of that, like I was wondering, it's like, oh, I'm hoping to see like what's going on with that, because I liked the movie, and I'm hoping a sequel could like do better. But now that and the Amazon deal for a game, I don't know what's going on, because it's like Embracer's not in a good place right now.
So
they might be shutting down projects left and right.
Campfire Cabal made games like the tactical RPG series such as Expeditions Rome. Which I've never heard of
I've heard that.
I've never heard of like the Expedition series. Like I'm not a tactical RPG player.
I played some.
It's kind of, from what I'm looking at here, it looks like XCOM.
I love XCOM. I mean, I also kind of hate it, but yeah, it's a
I
love-hate
played a little
relationship.
bit of XCOM Enemy Unknown on PS3. That's where I'm like, I'm not smart enough
Brutal.
for this. So others have been put up for sale, like Gearbox. And this is like right after the Free Radical was one of the last acquisitions for them, and they also were lobbying for the rights to the Middle Earth IP, right? And then we saw the dumpster fire that was Lord of the Rings Gollum, right? And then recently, like, I completely forgot this was a thing that was in the works. There was like a dungeon crawler sandbox MMO style game, like Minecraft, sort of, that you're basically playing as a dwarf in the Moria mines. And it released not great reviews as well. So that also, like, because that's now under their umbrella, kind of makes you wonder, like, how much of that's going to affect them, because it and Gollum were in the works before the acquisition to the rights. So how much of that's going to weigh on them, and how much of that's going to weigh on, like, the studios that were making them beforehand, how much of that's going to affect their bottom dollar, because this is not a friendly company. This is like if, Amazon themselves acquired you and you didn't hit your rate, right? It's for like the average person, like, best analogy I can put, like, you're in that bottom 5%, you're out kind of thing, right? So I'm really disheartened, because, like, I love Time Splitters. It was one of the franchises I played a lot growing up. I was really stoked for a remake. A lot of the original team had hit coming back, like, because I saw a lot of renewed faith in it because of the, like, Easter egg and Homefront: The Revolution. So a lot of them are, like, really stoked to come back to this franchise, and then they seem to, like, not be able to catch a break, because every time they start to do something with this IP, it just shit hits the fan moment. I think this is like the third time they've tried to reboot Time Splitters at this point. And every time it's just been like, either the studio closes down, you know, they lose funding, or now studio closing down again. It's unfortunate, like, almost like this franchise is cursed kind of moment. And you're right, like,
Yeah.
with everything that's under their umbrella, right? You had the Tomb Raider movie, and they had the deal with Amazon to publish the new game, which is like an odd choice to begin with, because Amazon doesn't really exactly have the best records when it comes to their game studios at all.
Yeah, they're trying, but yeah, not really
New
succeeding.
World, anyone? $40 game is now free to play. The Borderlands movie still technically kind of falls under their umbrella as well. Under Embracer's.
And I mean, again, that would be like a great movie if it worked out, but it's also like, is it going to work out? 'Cause this is a good time to release that kind of stuff with all these video game movies, but
everything
But we should also point out
everything I've seen from the plot synopsis of that, I'm like, this isn't even fucking Borderlands.
Yeah, well, then maybe it's for the best. What I would say is that as much as we're poking fun at Embracer here, it's like Embracer's not the only like place where all these layoffs are happening. Like in this article that we had linked in our server, like they're talking about the layoffs that were in many other companies as of recent, like Telltale, Epic, even at Sony, and we were also planning on talking about some of those things too. But
yeah,
point is, it's like a very bad time in the industry.
It's great for games, horrible for the industry, right? Because this has been one of the strongest years for games in a long time. But, like, the industry itself is fucked. And a lot of this leads down to studios not being able to read the fucking room right now. Because Xbox announced, and, lay into Mr. Jeff with a G here for a minute. Xbox announced, like, they were doing, like, quest making AI tech and everything. And Jeff with a G tweeted from the Game Awards account about it, right? And he got lit up on fucking Twitter about tweeting from like the award show that's supposed to be showing innovation in the industry with fucking AI. And I'm not saying like AI bad in the fullest sense here, because like a lot of your rating quests are powered by AI to begin with. I'm sorry to break the industry bubble there. Like nobody is sitting down and writing 7,000 different iterations of the same fetch quest. It's all programmed by AI. So like this is technology that's already existed in the game industry. Microsoft is just stupidly tweeting about it after laying off a bunch of people. Like, we're partnering with this technology firm to make it better.
Yeah, so it's when you actually dig into it, and Microsoft releasing some AI tools to help with game development, which I guess they were proud of, but it was just not the time to like do all that.
Yeah.
So
Because
yeah,
they announced that partnership like 48 hours after they laid off a bunch of people.
Right, so it just comes off really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But even though this AI isn't designed to replace those people specifically, it's also just like it seems like AI is just replacing people from an outsider's perspective, and that's how a lot of people took it. Which is why I did want to talk about that, just because it's like it. I mean, I think at this point, anytime a company like brings up AI at all, it always has to be like prefaced with the idea it's like this is not meant to replace anybody, and that is like an important thing to preface, because like AI is like very helpful for as a tool for creative purposes if used with the person behind it, but it also shouldn't be abused. And I also understand people's fears for it, because there's a reason we have all these strikes going on right now.
Yep.
Like it's specifically because of, well, it's also some streaming rights. But it's also because like to avoid AI being abused. So yeah, I mean, we do need laws and regulations in place to prevent that, because now is the time where those laws are relevant.
Yeah.
But I think it's also worth like using the technology or to do creative things, because like games are just getting bigger, and we need new development tools to like kind of beat player expectations, because you can't like genuinely expect to hire enough people to like write the kind of games that we're going to have in the future. It's just going to be way too much.
There's levels to this, right? Because look at a game with the scope of Elder Scrolls 6. Let's use that as an example here, because I've already used Skyrim, right?
Yeah.
Do you think every side quest is going to be written, scripted, edited down, made perfect by a human being, or do you think that human being is going to take the assist of like, okay, we need to fetch 5 bees for this shopkeeper, and then another instance of that same quest. I'm using Radiant Quest scripts here for an example. Do you think that they're going to write a completely different instance in that for you need to carry 25 cabbages to Sheogorath? Do you think that same quest is also going to be, you need to hunt 7 deer for Hersing, right? That's all broke down a lot by AI to help speed up the process of development. And these are helpful tools for stuff like that. It's not to say like every individual quest is going to be put like that, or every individual NPC is going to be populated by some bootleg version of DALL-E generator or whatever. It's just a tool to help assist and fine-tune and speed up the process of development. I still stand by the fact that Elder Scrolls 6 was announced way too fucking early, because now we have like an infinite level of expectation for it. But the same thing could be said about another game that we're going to talk about a bit later on. But like, I'm 100% in standing with like, there is no instance where AI should 100% replace a human being unless that is a dangerous industry, right? Like, I would rather AI and a robot, did something with the oil fields, or did the whole lighthouse changing of the bulb, where like it's such a dangerous job, they're paying you like $10,000 just to walk up a fucking pole, that kind of job. That should be handled by a robot and some AI. No human being should be put in that kind of risk. But like, from a creative perspective, that is where a human being belongs. Just putting my stance out there on that. I say that as somebody that uses AI to help editing as well. Because that's how I balance out the audio if it gets wacky on this. I've talked about that in the past. But like, I would rather a human being sit down and write like the actual storyline of my game. But I want them to be able to have the best tools and the best ability to not crunch themselves into a fucking corner and kill themselves for art.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's like AI is used as an assistant, not just gaming, but in multiple other fields too. Not even just the creative fields. And when I was, I'm for those who don't know, like I'm in the medical field, and one of the when I was considering like my options of like where I want to like go in the future in that field, one of the early fields I was thinking was like radiology because I have a very like kind of diagnostic type mentality. So that was one of the fields I looked into, and like even there was like AI assist tools to help radiologists like discover things on an X-ray to like help them. I mean, like these are professionals who have like plenty of reference materials and years of experience that they could find a lot on their own, but the X-rays are very good at just helping them either locate things they don't need or that they would have missed, or that it helps them like just like narrow down their diagnostic differential. And it was interesting because like at least at the time when I was doing it, like the AI is still like pretty bad at like actually doing work. Like even I, as a student in those times, was able to do better than a lot of the AI that they had in the software. But it was still like more impressive than like, you know, your average person just coming in with like nothing. So I thought it was cool. And at the very, it's also not going to be replacing anybody anytime soon, despite what even people in the field were, or in the medical field were even telling me when I was talking about my interest in radiology.
Yeah.
So to get back into gaming, I think it's like important that we stress that we like as customers don't want this, and like, but at the same time, we should recognize that there's still a need for AI in anything.
Absolutely. Like my field, you know, my degree field's IT, so I'm used to seeing it in every capacity in that side of things. My job that I, you know, currently had, when this, you know, started booming, is like I was already using it to program robots and shit, for manufacturing. So like I already have like a handle on like some of the aspects of it, but I don't want it to sit in there and replace like our creatives. Um, like tying this into the next studio news, so we can just keep on a gaming stuff line of things, right?
Yeah.
Bungie, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, Bungie. That was another thing another place where we're getting some things going off. And it also tied in with what we were saying with like live service before the start. And I think even our last discussion, I think.
Yeah, we were
I think
talking
we
about
talked
like the
live
bubble
service.
of that, and I believe it was the last one. It might have been the one before that, but so Destiny
Yeah. But
2.
point is, it's still going down that road where live service games are just not panning out the way people are thought. And I think that is like a large part of like a lot of these things. As we'll talk about, I'm going to talk about Sega a bit later, but like they had to like lay off a lot of people from Creative Assembly for very similar reasons and stop their live service project Hyenas from coming through.
Yeah,
But yeah,
so
back to Bungie.
I loved Destiny back in the day, right? I have way too many hours on it from like the PS3 era on down to, you know, when it launched on PC. Um I don't want to say how many hours I have in Destiny 2, because it's depressing. uh but at the same time, I recognize that I thought originally, I'm going to, you know, make this a story time for a second. I originally thought it was a lot of the handling from Activision because it came out originally as like an Activision product, right? Because they helped get Destiny 1 off the ground. Um, you know, in a post Halo Bungie, right? And then you slowly started seeing a lot of the monetization that you were kind of getting used to in modern COD, right? So I thought maybe originally, naively, and it wasn't just me. A lot of people thought the same thing. Like maybe it was Activision was handling like the monetization methods. So when they announced they were separating, I'm like, okay, now we can get back to like the good shit, right? And then it got fucking worse. Like, almost to what you're seeing in Diablo 4 right now. Have you seen like how much you're charging for fucking horse skin?
I mean, I've heard
Right.
stories, but
So
yeah,
it was that bad, right? So a lot of players just hopped off of it, came back for a little bit,
understandably.
and it's still a mess, but it's better now. I'll give them credit where credit's due. They kind of brought the story back in. I don't like paying for content that'll eventually go away though. That's the thing that I don't.
It'll just go to Game Pass, as we've talked about, I think.
No. They
Yeah,
essentially like vault off worlds, whole ass fucking worlds that you pay for, right? So like if you buy something from like season 2 and season 3, that whole ass planet might be gone. And not story wise, just because they want to speed up like server space and shit because you're not having any stories there, which I kind of get from an IT perspective, but like you're paying for the ability to travel to that world. You're paying for the ability to, go back and grind for those materials and, that kind of thing, right? So if I pay for something as a gamer, I expect to be able to, like, have access to it, especially when that planet still exists on the fucking map. They don't even, like, gray it out in the map or, like, take you to a different system. They, like, it's there. You just can't fucking go there. So it's a weird way to handle content, right?
Yeah, but like I said, I think once it's on Game Pass, it's just all going to be together. So, yeah, it'll probably be the better experience for Diablo. Or that's my thought process.
No, I was just mentioning like that from a Destiny perspective. I was just comparing like their monetization to Diablo.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But like they'll just take whole ass planets away. They'll take like loot away, which fine. Loot in an MMO is always gonna like go in and out of meta, whatever. I don't give a shit there because I'm not really paying for that from that perspective, unless it's like something that's bundled. And I'm like, I paid $20 for that, with the fucking battle pass or whatever. But it comes down to the way they're handling this current season, and they delayed it because of a bunch of layoffs, right? They laid off, I think it was like 130 people. Most of them were, behind either the Marathon reboot, which looks like absolute ass because it's an extraction shooter in an era where extraction shooters aren't even popular anymore. And a lot of them were like involved in like the questing side of Destiny 2. Along with the composer who has been with them basically since the beginning of fucking time. And the design lead who made the fucking Halo logo. So these are people who have been with the company for 20, plus years that they just let go. So that just furthers my take in like never show loyalty to a company because they don't give a fuck about you.
Yeah, it's very true. Sad, but true.
But like these are some of the most iconic people in Bungie's history being let go. You're seeing like whole ass teams we'll get to like whole ass teams being let go in a minute. But it's sad, right? Because like it's just the decline of this studio continues year after year. Because this isn't the first batch of like layoffs or restructuring that's happened in Bungie in the last few years. Because like right around the time when they went independent again, essentially, right before they got acquired by Sony, they restructured how their business looked, and people got shuffled around, and some people went to other studios, but they weren't like locked out of their badge access and their Slack access like they were seeing here, right? It was just like you can choose to leave or you can go to a different department kind of thing. And a lot of that was like when they were working on Marathon in the background too, so it kind of makes sense for to be shuffled to a different team in development. Look at how fucking Bethesda handles their stuff. But yeah, like it's interesting because originally people were blaming Sony's acquisition on it, even though because the buyout for them was to like give them more freedom to stay afloat And I guess maybe they were thinking like, well, they didn't see any turnaround in it. And Destiny's player count's been on the decline for a long time anyway, because there's never really been any real compelling updates for people last year or so. The whole story is a mess right now. But that's the same with like most MMOs, right? Like World of Warcraft sees a decline until like something intrigues players to come back, right? So like I just chalked it up to that, but like it's unfortunate, right? Because so many people have lost their jobs this year in this industry that you're seeing them just like leave the whole ass industry. One of the leads just changed their LinkedIn bio to gone fishing. Because, it's like assumed like he's just like, I'm done. I've got my bag. I'm fed up. No matter where we go, we're just going to get kicked out or replaced or. So, and I don't really blame people if they want to leave the industry in the shape it's in, But it also
which
sucks.
is, again, a weird thing because of how great games have been this year. And possibly in a future, well, depending on the timing of things, when the Game Awards will be having like their nominations like next week, thinking we could talk about like what we think would win each category, but that's for the future to figure out.
Yeah, that'll be a whole other video.
Yeah. Because they haven't even come out yet.
Yeah, this is like laying into your topic there. Like it's because it's also a live service game, right? And live service games are like distinctly on the decline, other than Fortnite, right? Fortnite hit like concurrent records, like day after day after OG dropped, right? It was at like 44.7 million concurrent players, like the second day of OG's season launching, which is its highest player count ever, and one of the highest ever seen in like live gaming. But
Epic is also kind of in a weird place where, because I was watching Newswave this morning, which is where I get most of my gaming news, and like they talked about how like Epic Game Store is like still like not profitable. So despite having like this rival to Steam, quote unquote, as well as like one of the most popular live service, they still aren't like making money off of their this platform where they just give games for free sometimes. So yeah, I mean, it's not like even Epic is like well and swimming. They have like their own problems.
Fair use is 30 seconds, right?
What?
Fair use for a video would be 30 seconds, right?
Sounds right. Wait, but why? What happened?
I'm playing.
Did we just play some?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Did you play something? Because I didn't hear anything.
I was playing the "You Cannot Live with Your Own Failure" clip from Avengers. It's literally every individual store or launcher, all of their games have like reverted back to Steam, right? And I love that in a way, and I hate it in another, because I wanted there to be a competitor to Steam, because I hate the idea of like a monopoly on the gaming front. Despite enjoying watching the world kind of become more consolidated and to an extent, because it gives studios more money and freedom, because it's like this massive catch-22 in that regard. But every fucking like Ubisoft, EA, they're all coming back to Steam. And then you have Epic over there doing their own little thing like Nintendo. I enjoy, but please just put Kingdom Hearts on Steam. I'll buy it again. I hate having to launch it through Epic Games Store.
Yeah, and I didn't even buy it at all because it's through Epic Games Store. Despite the fact that Kingdom Hearts is like a whole series I do want to get into. And it would be easy to do that through there. But I'm not, like, even when Sonic Colors...
Sorry, so long.
You're good, man.
Nah, it's fine.
Like, you're right, though. Like, it's not profitable at all. They give away so many good games. Like, that was originally, like, why I bought or downloaded the Epic Game Launcher, right? Is because they give away all these good games. I played a lot of them. And then and X got me into Fortnite during like when Zero Bill came out.
Wait, are we recording?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
We've been recording.
It's like 1:30.
Oh shit.
So like and I've just kind of become addicted to Fortnite at this point. I have a love-hate relationship with the idea of the Epic Game Store though, right? It's the worst launcher on the planet. And I say that as somebody who used the 2K launcher because they had to, because that's the only way you could play fucking Midnight Suns. And then when that came out, because even if you bought it through Steam, right, it launched through the 2K launcher, and then they retroactively put the fucking 2K launcher into the BioShock remaster. So when I went to play BioShock 1 and 2 again, I couldn't even stream it for a good hour and a half after I planned to stream BioShock because nothing worked because they blocked the ability to record. So but somehow Epic Game Launcher is still worse.
Wait, sorry, I think are we getting some feedback through Tyler's stuff? I'm very confused what we're hearing.
It's a little bit of feedback from his phone. It happens occasionally.
Okay.
But yeah,
okay,
like I don't know like how much you guys you haven't played Kingdom Hearts on there. Tyler has a Chromebook, so I'm probably the only one here other than Ann Arbor if he would pop in that's done it. But controller support and cloud saves are things that still aren't natively in every game on the Epic Game Launcher as well. And
that's dumb.
So like when I replace like the hard drive and the CPU and this PC that I'm using to record this on, I had started, like a playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 2 for content purposes. Thinking like, oh, it'll be blacked up in the cloud. No. Lost like 45 hours worth of progress. I'm like, I'm good. I'll go back to it next year. Because I play through those games every fucking year. It's my comfort game. But yeah, that's like why it's not, because it's so far behind everything else. Like people actually gave it a try for the most part and realized like it's an inferior launcher, it's an inferior storefront. But you have certain things that are locked behind it, like Alan Wake 2, for example, is a game I'll have to buy through there. I'll have to.
I mean, will you have to? Is it like not coming at all to Steam?
No.
Because like I was saying with like Sonic Colors Ultimate, like it eventually just came to Steam, and I'm like, cool, glad I didn't buy it.
It's being funded partially by Epic, so it'll have exclusivity, like Kingdom Hearts. At least from my understanding of the deal, they have like exclusivity on it because they helped with it, like Bayonetta and Nintendo kind of thing.
Yeah. Actually, that does feed into a different topic I want to do, but since Tyler showed up late, I want to see if he wanted to go into anything.
Oh, wait, what was the topic?
Well, we're just doing kind of gaming news stuff.
We talked about
like Legend of Zelda movie, like, and then Embracer and some of the layoffs, and then with Bungie, we kind of transitioned into Epic.
Well, I'll say in terms of the Zelda movie, I think it can work in live action, definitely. I can imagine the tone being like, if they really want to lean into like, because one of Zelda's biggest draws is like the dungeon crawling, going through all these dungeons and like trying to solve puzzles. If they like really lean into that, it could be kind of like almost like an Indiana Jones thing, where like Link can also gather up like a motley crew of friends to help. If it like, it could be like it depends on what like how the continuity is going to be handled, but like it's like if they go like something like based on Ocarina of Time, because like that's a very popular game, they can like bring in people like Sheik, Ruto, and Darunia. If they go more Breath of the Wild, they can bring in the champions, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did talk about like the working of like live action and how they could do the different species like already. So, yep, I think we're in agreement there.
So
Hmm.
the other thing, like I want to gather your thoughts here, Tyler, since you popped in late. We talked about like the sort of like pseudo millennial insert for it. I kind of joked that it would be Navi, kind of like the Luma was in the
Oh,
Mario
yeah.
movie. What do you think of that? Like, do you think that would be a trope that would kind of get like stale fast? Do you think it would be something that works with the audience that they're kind of trying to go for with the movie? How about that one? I'm
I
also
don't think
not
like
doing
the
this.
trope has gotten stale yet. Like, I feel like that kind of trope is like very much so on the cusp of fragility.
Very fair.
Like, if it's like used like through every movie for the rest of this year and all of next year, then yeah, I can see that. I could see it finally staling up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we were just saying that like there would be like one Nintendo mascot character that just kind of acts as the zoomer. It was kind of more of a joke than like a really serious point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think the next big one we got here lays into you party jams, and that is the Sega Super Game.
yeah, I was debating whether to do that or Apple Arcade next because what you were. I think I'll just quickly just do the Apple Arcade thing because it transitions well from your point with exclusivity. Because for those who don't know, Apple Arcade is like Apple's like mobile like gaming subscription similar to Game Pass, where if you own an Apple device, you can pay like $6 a month for access to like some of their like, I guess premium mobile games, and some of them are like ports of like indie games. Others are like plus versions of pre-existing popular games on the App Store that just don't have microtransactions, and then others are like brand new games that have been made specifically for Apple Arcade. And I've been using the service myself for a while, and I have to say I've discovered a lot of fun games through it. Like originally got it just because like Shantae, the new Shantae game was like coming there first. So I'm like, okay, well, I love Shantae and I own an iPhone, so I might as well get that. But I also noticed that there were a lot of like Sonic games that were also there as well, because Sonic has like a good presence on mobile. And one of the big things that recently happened was that Apple had approached Sega Hardlight, which is like the big mobile like developers for Sega, and said, "Hey, Sonic's been doing great like recently with like the movies and the games. We were wondering if you could make an exclusive for us." And they have done that in the past, sort of. Like they kind of just made mobile ports or mobile versions of games that have existed, like the Olympic games and the recent racing games, and those were okay. But this is like a brand new game, like what looks like, based on the trailer, like a fully 3D game with multiple playable characters. And it looks very fun, but the big controversy is, of course, that it's right now exclusive to Apple, and Apple funded it, so there's a chance it might stay there on the service. And people were, especially like in third world countries where I guess Apple devices are extra expensive, like worried that they would never be able to play it. They kind of hate this idea of being locked behind paywalls. And like my take with that is, number one, like this game just wouldn't have existed without Apple to begin with. So there's just a thing you wouldn't have been able to play anyway. And two, it's a game that in and of itself looks very promising for Sega Hardlight, and I think just like a brand new branch of games that we can just have on mobile that aren't littered with like microtransactions or that daily gacha. And this coming from like a gacha addict, that game daily routine of grind and like getting stuff through microtransactions and just like mini tasks. It's just a straight up game. But I think there is like a fair point that you kind of touched on, Vex, where there's like game preservation concerns if it doesn't get ported outside of like Apple's ecosystem, where if it's just stuck on this subscription service, it's not a game. It's a game that could just like leave Apple's service potentially and just be never heard from again. And that has happened with a few games. Like to be fair, like Choo Choo Rocket was like a Sega game that came on Apple Arcade service and is no longer existing. Hey, Luke.
Oh yeah.
So
And on top of that, there are like other like games like Rayman Mini, which is like the latest Rayman game, which hasn't been gone off of Apple's service.
the fuck,
So
there's a new
there's
Rayman
a
game.
chance. Yeah, it's called Rayman Mini. So there's like all these like things that I think are legitimate concerns for people, but I'm not as concerned because Apple has like number one like has like ported out other games that were originally like exclusive or just launch exclusives, and I think in general it's still not like a bad business decision by Sega because they get to appeal to like a large audience because Apple Arcade is like 100 million subscribers. That's bigger than like Game Pass or PlayStation's Plus. There's like so many people that are just like subscribed to service that'll try out like this new potential Sonic game. And Sega themselves have been like pushing more and more into the mobile industry. They recently bought the Angry Bird devs. So I think they are trying to like get good relations with Apple to like have a bigger presence in the mobile space, which is like the biggest sector of gaming. So I'm pretty excited for this new Sonic game. And while I say there's legitimate concerns, I think for the most part, it's still overall a good thing. I think people are just upset because like they missed having a colorful Sonic 3D game, and it's just tied to like Apple's ecosystem, which they don't really want to be a part of. Which fair enough. And I think it will eventually still get ported.
Yeah. So
And I had another Sega topic that Vex was hinting at, but yeah, go ahead.
So like you were mentioning like they've ported out stuff. I was about to bring in like we had talked previously about Fantasian, like
I highly recommend Fantasian.
the game from the original creator of like Final Fantasy. That's the biggest one that got ported out. I didn't know there was another fucking.
Yeah. Well, it
Rayman
didn't officially get ported. He mentioned interest, and there's like a Steam page. I think I may have misspoke at one point about that, so I apologize if that was like me who brought that up. But
like,
yeah, there's like a Steam page in the works for it, but it hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, so like that means it'll eventually come out. But
Pretty
like
much.
you said there's other titles that got ported out. Like I'm very anti-Apple. For you know,
and that's understandable.
for IT reasons. That being said, I know their place in the market. I know that they have the player base. Like I stay in tune with at least the news of that. They have fucking Resident Evil 8 working on an iPhone. Like one of the most graphically intensive games of the last like 2-3 years. I find that absolutely amazing for running on a mobile device. Because
I think that's the other thing. People just don't realize that phones are crazy nowadays. They're more powerful than your Switch. If it's like a new phone.
That is insane to think about.
Yeah,
well, it's also because Nintendo cheaps out on hardware.
That's very fair. Like the Switch is like a 8-year-old processor at this point, 9-year-old processor at this point. But like, because it was out of date when it was in manufacturing, like the processor that's in there. But anyway, like the fact that you have, because you don't think of like gaming with Apple, right? Like from a perspective of a PC gamer, you think of that, and you're like, oh, maybe you can play The Sims, But now you have fucking Resident Evil 8 running on there. You have, I saw preview text for like all sorts of AR, VR games with that fucking $1,500 headset that they're making that I know some idiot is going to buy. And this is me calling out the fact that, like, they have a cult. And you can't convince me anything else that people were willing to pay $800 for wheels, for their fucking, their MacBook or their Mac Pro. And the fact that like people clown on you for not being a certain color in a text message. and that's actually Apple's doing. They could actually, have the technology to make everybody fit under one protocol, but they choose not to. So like I'm very anti Apple in that perspective, but like I recognize it. Like they have the biggest market inside the subscription service sphere, and they have an immense success in this. And I will say, like, as somebody that hates Apple, I've watched a lot of their Apple TV shows and movies, and they are better quality than shit that's on Netflix because they actually produce.
That's what I've heard.
They pride themselves on like quality over quantity, like a lot of these other subscription
I'll
services
probably
do.
ask for some recs later once I get Apple TV,
Okay.
which will be in like a week. Yeah, Godzilla's coming out. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
I got you.
But the other thing I will say with Apple Arcade is I do appreciate that Apple is trying to get quality games out there that aren't littered with microtransactions. Because the big thing people say that they don't like about mobile gaming is, well, number one, touch controls and stuff, which fair enough. But also that like the games, they look cheap, they run on microtransactions, they don't feel like real AAA games because they don't have like any real funding behind them. But that's changed so much in the last decade or so. And so markets like this that exist, I think is good. I think it just is a niche that most people are wondering, like, who does it exist for? But I think that's kind of what Apple's trying to fill in right now. They're trying to like go outside of their little cult that Vex mentioned. It's like, okay, we need to like get in some bigger games because along with Sonic, they announced, because I pulled up that page, they announced a bunch of other major IPs that they're bringing in. They're having like a Football Manager, which is also through Sega. There's like a 2K game coming out, which I think 2K has released Apple games before. There's like Hello Kitty, which is kind of silly, but it's a huge IP.
Yeah,
So,
it's
Hello Sega,
Kitty,
of course, also has
Animal Crossing, isn't it? Basically, from what I saw.
Yeah, pretty much. I actually might play it myself just because it actually looks pretty good, despite the fact I have no interest in the Hello Kitty IP. But yeah, so Sega like is investing more into their thing, which I think is kind of new for them because they haven't innovated on their tech in the longest time. They just kind of steal whatever Android's done like years ago and call it new, and it works for them. But if for this for their service, I think they're going to need to like do more, and it seems like they're trying, which is weird to see, but I'm pretty excited as someone who still owns an iPhone, despite the fact that I probably shouldn't be having an iPhone. So, yeah, I did want to just bring up Apple Arcade quickly, but before I go into more Sega stuff, Luke, did you have anything since you just came back?
I'm just I was thinking like what other because I was having dinner at the time, I was having dinner, so I was thinking like what other Sega, and this will lead into more Sega topics. What other Sega titles would you potentially feel like could work as like a movie adaptation? It seems like Sega and Nintendo are going down that route of like just because the Sonic movie was like released as like a Sega Films project, so naturally there's going to be more of them. Like, what ones would you like to see?
Okay,
Right.
here,
And go ahead, Tyler. What'd you say?
I was about to say, I think like the big one here is probably Yakuza. I feel like
Oh yeah.
the sort of like dramatic stuff in Yakuza and like the street tier fighting choreography could lend itself perfectly to a movie.
Yeah, that one work. Can I stroke my own ego for a second and say that I would love to see a Phantasy Star one?
You can, because I'm going to stroke my own ego. Even though the controllers are clunky, I still enjoyed this game series. I'd love to see a Golden Axe film.
Yeah, and I also want to answer Luke's question. Like, there is years ago, I had to pull up an article to confirm because it's been like a while since they announced it. But the Crazy Taxi movie is reportedly in the works, so I think that's like the next one. And I want to say like Jet Set Radio as well. I don't know if we'd have like no trailers for that. And even with Jet Set Radio, there was like a leak that came out I want to say last year, that showed like Jet Set Radio, like even get games in the works. So I think those are like the next big movie IPs that are likely to come out from Sega, and I think they all work pretty well. Sega does have a good, robust IP service, like, and how well they use it is very dependent on who you talk to. Because I mean, like I said, like there have been like games attempts, like Choo Choo Rocket was on Apple Arcade, Sakura Wars had some recent stuff, Valkyrie Chronicles is like one of my favorite Sega IPs outside of Sonic, has had titles in recent years, but in movies, I guess it's like a new territory, and I would love a Valkyria Chronicle movies. That would work so well in live action, despite the fact there's some supernatural elements which they might need to like kind of like do some crazy stuff with. I think that would work well. It's just a war movie, just straight up. It's very anime, but they could just make a straight up war movie out of that.
It's waifus going to war, basically.
Yeah, but surprisingly still more grounded than you would think from that concept. Like, it'd say even more than Fire Emblem, which is also just that nowadays. But, yeah, with Sega, though...
go ahead.
Good.
No.
Well, I was going to go into my Super Games topic, but yeah.
There was one thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to the Sonic movies, like with Sonic the Hedgehog 3, or moving forward with the Sonic film franchise. I don't know how they're going to continue this with the fact that they don't want to recast Dr. Robotnik, but Jim Carrey wants to retire from acting.
I mean, yeah, did we talk about this? I don't remember if we talked about this or not, but
I think we talked about it in a stream.
Maybe. But yeah, this basic idea is like there's been some rumors of like other villains they could bring in. Like some people, of course, the easy suggestion is just to make Agent Stone like the new main antagonist because they've developed him pretty well. They could just bring another antagonist from the Sonic universe. Because I do kind of respect the fact that they don't want to recast Jim Carrey, and like even though Eggman's like iconic to the Sonic, I would respect the fact that they're like, you know what, we'll have some other villains take the role. We'll make our own villains rather than just recast like a man who just did such a great job. And also, there's also the idea of Jim Carrey might still just come back. I mean, I don't want to belittle his words, but he could just change his mind as well.
I mean, how many times did Robert Downey Jr. say he wanted to walk away from playing Tony Stark before he finally did?
Yeah, and then there's also I've heard recently that they might still bring him back again, which I'm like,
yeah, they're thinking about doing that for the entire original Avengers.
Yeah, which I don't know if I like that idea, just because it's like it feels like it defeats the purpose of like his character. I don't know.
Yeah, and they could just be, bring him back as like an alternate universe, Tony Stark, make him a whole different character in that regard. Bring like.
I mean, they could, but that also feels cheap to me somehow.
Yeah, let's put the same face on the same character, but make him a douche if we make him the Ultimates version, right? It just doesn't sit right with me. They could bring him back for like a what if, like in an animated like what if, Tony Stark wasn't Iron Man kind of thing. That would work, if they wanted to bring it back for another project, because, that would tell a different story of like what would go on. Or what if, Tony Stark was still an arms dealer, kind of thing. Could do something like that, and still bring him back for, fan service, and that's exactly what the fuck this would be.
Yeah,
pretty much. But yeah, so then the Sonic movies I think will be fine. They have a lot of material, another antagonist they could just bring in.
There is one
from the comics if they want to.
There is one group of antagonists they could bring in, because we've got Shadow coming in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And if they decide to do a fourth film, you know what they could do potentially?
Black Arms?
No, the metal Sonics and like Metal Silver the Hedgehog and all of that.
But that's still...
Metal Sonic, I know, but Metal Silver, what?
I think I'm looking at
Metal Sonic from Sonic 2. And then there's Mecha Sonic from Sonic 3. There's Mecha Knuckles, the tail.
Oh, you're talking about Silver Sonic. Oh, okay, I got you.
All right.
They did
There is also like I don't know if they want to do a movie based on Sonic 06, considering the reputation.
Yeah, but I also would like to see how they would tackle that. Because the weird thing I would say with the Sonic movies, which I mean, I didn't really want to dig into this like at this discussion, but since we're here anyway, with the Sonic movies, like compared to Mario, it being a live action taking place on Earth, it felt like a really cheap choice in the start, but it was okay for what it is. But now that we have a whole film franchise, the fact that we're on Earth with humans is kind of helpful because we can just use real people instead of like weird animated human characters, which they could have done, but this is almost better.
And they could still do like like in a future film where it's like we have the humans going to Sonic's world. I feel like people, if it went that route, it would be like, because doesn't that happen in Sonic X when they have the humans going to Sonic's world?
Well, only, I mean, from my memory, only Chris went into Sonic's world, and like there was some time dilation stuff that happened. And I guess Eggman, obviously, he traveled to like the Mushroom Planet. So he traveled to Sonic's world. So it is possible, right? But it's mostly like in most universes, it's Sonic coming to Earth. Sonic X was Sonic coming to Earth. And like in the current Sonic canon, there's kind of like human like continents and like animal like islands. That's kind of how they've established the current lore.
Which is
but
interesting to say the least. But like they could,
there's a lot of retcons. So
I mean, that's game media in general exists solely for retcon's sake at this point, because we've had 40 years of canon that's been piecemealed back together.
Pretty much. Especially now that they're really trying to tie like some of the older canon into the current canon. We're like, okay, let's see how we can do this.
Let's make Archie Sonic canon and just make him nuke a planet. Fuck it, because he's literally like Super Saiyan God level in the Archie comics.
He really is, and that's probably why they had to reboot the comics. He's too strong. Because like the current Sonic, he's like powerful, but like even God still challenge him.
But yeah, let's
go
into
like.
Go ahead.
Good. There you go.
I was saying, like, I think Party James was trying to transition into the Sega Super Project there.
Yeah, pretty much, because that was like originally what we were going to talk about. But Tyler, did you have something?
Nah.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to bring up with the Super Games thing was Sega had an interview where they talked about releasing like this $800 million like super game, and then people who just read that on Twitter went like, oh my god, this is crazy, what big thing are they going to release? Is this just going to be like one giant like as Vex was suggesting, like a new Hyenas thing, but with like a more popular IP? And then other people thought it's like, okay, if Sega puts all this money into one game and it goes down, like so many people are going to lose their jobs. And what people didn't seem to understand is that $800 million wasn't going into one singular game. $800 million was just like their budget for a series of AAA games they're going to release for their IPs. Because, and I think Games Cage did a good job going over this topic. He's like one of my favorite Sonic tubers. But like he brought up the idea that it's like a lot of Sonic IPs, like as Tyler was talking about Yakuza, or even Sonic, they, despite being really big and major, and even you can argue with Persona, I suppose, like despite their popularity, they are still kind of in that AA sort of budget range, where it's like the games are fun and they're very good games in and of themselves, but they don't have like the budget that you would see in like a God of War or a like a big live service game like Destiny. So like Sega is thinking, it's like, okay, we have like these really big IPs now, and we want to kind of compete with like the Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wilds, and like Armored Core 6. I'm bringing those up specifically because there was like a 1-year anniversary of Sonic Frontiers interview that I'm going to briefly bring up near the end, that where those games were specifically brought up. It's like, these are the kind of games we kind of want to live up to in the future. And like, so in order to do that, of course, Sega has to like spend in the money and resources, because like as Sonic fans who are like hyper detail oriented, like we'll say that if you look at the credits, there are a lot fewer like people behind like a lot of the work in Sonic Team when you compare it to like games like Sonic Unleashed, which was like the last really big AAA type title that they had. And so that's kind of where a lot of some of the problems also face with that IP specifically. But I'm also interested like what other major AAA games we'll see from Sega. And we listed off a bunch of IPs earlier, and those are likely the IPs that they'll put more money into. I mean, I would love to see like a AAA like Valkyria Chronicles or Sakura Wars or even Yakuza. Yakuza's been so good. I think they could do a lot with that kind of money. And of course, Atlas has always just been great at what they do. So if they get more budget for their games, that would be nice. And I guess with all the doom and gloom we talked about earlier in the podcast, where so many layoffs are happening, it's nice that at least there's like some money going into producing like some bigger games, even after the successful year of games that we've had. Because like people are going to expect more. That's why we're seeing all these like new tools that Microsoft that we talked about. That, but I also hope that like Sega isn't the only one trying to do things like this, because Microsoft, for their own part, they've mentioned that they haven't been releasing like very good like first party titles for themselves. They just kind of bought out some big first party titles to help themselves. So I'm hoping that other game companies also kind of instill this level of confidence in terms of like investing in their game IPs and dev teams.
Yeah, and going along with that notion of AAA games, I feel like one of the next big franchises that could potentially get it is Elder Scrolls, because the sixth one has been announced for a while, but not really heard anything about it. But I really do feel like with a bigger budget and effectively putting more money into it, it could be a great title to get people back into the franchise.
Yep, and that's I think also GTA 6. They recently said a trailer is likely on the way out. I think that was another topic that Vex wanted to bring up.
GTA 6. Yeah, the trailer's arriving in December.
Sorry, I had to step away. My partner got back early. What did I miss?
I just brought up GTA 6 that you wanted to talk about. So
okay.
If you want to take it from there.
So, here's the thing, guys. I want to mention one thing in that Sega Super thing, because I don't know if it got mentioned.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that. I was just transitioning to your topic from there.
So, I feel like there's I think it's just because I have this like deep love for this franchise, because it's one of the first games I really played online in any capacity. I'm really hoping that Phantasy Star gets like a single player comeback in this as well, because I don't know if you guys remember, there was Phantasy Star Universe on the Xbox 360, which was one of the first Xbox 360 games I bought because I grew up playing Phantasy Star Online, right? So like I feel like that could be one of those projects, because you've seen the massive success of Phantasy Star Online 2, which I actually should probably take a dive down because I love that universe. It's been massively successful. It gets like Game Pass Ultimate perks constantly. It's got a high concurrent player count. It had the fucking Sonic trailer playing in the background of it at one point. Do you guys remember that?
No.
Honestly, no.
Okay, so this is deep lore Sonic trailer.
I mean, it wouldn't be the weirdest thing I think Sonic did. Like the first episode of Sonic Prime, like premiered in like Roblox.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would you do that?
So
that was a weird day for the fan base. We were just all on Roblox.
Yeah, God, I've never dove down that. So they did the Sonic.
It's not worth it, if you ask me.
So
not to make fun. I mean, Roblox does have some stuff. It's just not for me, and probably just because it was, our past our generation.
Yeah. So they did Sonic Frontiers trailer was the one that one of those in there, and they did Sonic Movie 2's in there as well. They use the hub world as like a premiere event, kind of like Fortnite does events.
Oh yeah, now that I see it, it's starting to come back to me.
But anyway, like they did that. I found that was like a really cool way to do that, and not in a Fortnite way where like part of the lore for the final movie was a 30-second voice clip in a fucking Fortnite event. But yeah, like I feel like that could be one that could be brought back in this regard. And I just want it because I'm a sucker for that universe. But GTA 6, how are you guys feeling about that right now?
I mean, considering I'm not really played any. I mean, the only one I've really dived into the most is San Andreas. I personally don't know. I personally don't know how to feel about that.
So I haven't played like any of the GTA games. I've only seen playthroughs online. But what Vex and I were talking about before, the stream started, was the idea that GTA 5 and like not even just GTA 5, but the remakes that have recently come out, it kind of doesn't inspire the most amount of confidence in like another GTA title, just because the IP has been milked so much, and it's hard to imagine GTA 6 is somehow going to be like the most innovative like title that's somehow going to change our minds about GTA. If anything, it feels like it's just going to be kind of like what Tears. Let me see if I get all the titles right. Tears of the Kingdom was for Breath of the Wild, kind of a continuation of that. I feel like GTA 6 is likely just going to be like a more modernized GTA 5. Because at some point they're like, okay, we can't just keep selling GTA 5 for the rest of time. So we just need like
they've done a damn good job of it so far, haven't they?
I mean, yeah, it's longer than it should be able to, but at some point it's like we need to be able to justify charging GTA 5, but not full price.
Back in my day, there was a GTA every 3 years. And anyway, I don't give a single solitary fuck about this game after like nearly we've had 2 console generations and a half of milking people for shark card money to fight FOMO. There's no other way to put it. Because if you didn't have a flying car or a bike, or you didn't have the fucking, half of the fucking gear to do a heist, you were like useless online. If you didn't have like a base of operation, you couldn't do most of the things. Like GTA, I love the concept of modern GTA, right? Like basically being a supervillain. That's essentially what it turned into. It was a supervillain simulator.
No. The superhero simulator was Saint Rhodes, the Saint Rhodes series, especially with Saint Rhodes 2, when you're essentially RoboCop, because you get the regenerating health ability.
But like, Luke, there's a difference in it here, and I'll get to it in a minute. Like, there's a viral clip of Smitty and Grizzy, right? Grizzy hires a mugger. I'm not gonna play their content because I respect them too much. Grizzy hires a mugger. Smitty spends the rest of the video setting up an orbital strike just to nuke him off the planet, basically. And that's the kind of content that comes out of it. Like it's supervillain simulator to like a Gru level, like Gru from Despicable Me, right? You can do stupid shit and make ridiculous funny moments gameplay like that. But at the same time, that bit alone costs Smitty like probably $200, right? Just to make a funny moment in a video. And that's the level of stupidity that GTA's kind of become. Obviously, like one of the top YouTubers in that category, that's like chump change. But at the same time, to like the average player, you're having to spend that for like the base, the car, the orbital strike, all that shit. And you get to the point where like, is it worth it to play this game? Not to mention like the state the fucking remakes came in. Like it was despicable. It was like almost like intentional because there was so much drummed up like RDR1 remake win because you saw how beautiful RDR2's graphics were. But everything post that has just been an absolute fucking mess for them. They like a lot of the concept art for Bully 2 got leaked during COVID because they canceled it finally, like officially. Like, yeah, we were working on this. This is what it was. You see like the fucking GTA remakes, one being locked away on PlayStation Plus, one being locked away on Game Pass Ultimate, the other one you happen to buy. It has just been a whole mess. So there's no faith for me in that regard, unless they can dumb down the amount of monetization in there to where you have to spend hundreds of dollars to keep up with everybody. I have no interest in it. Not even in the story. And I say that as somebody that played every GTA up to 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have rants because I hate that kind of game where it's just like constant FOMO,
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of games use that. Even the gacha games that you and I are constantly playing.
I say that as I'm rolling on Genshin right now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm about to open EK myself just to get that unit I still don't have yet. So,
I pulled one of the new heroes, Cole, and pulled Charlotte too. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, my gacha friends were talking about the new Genshin unit.
Oh wait, and a Beto, nice. Three girls all in one pull.
That sounds so bad out of context.
Gacha games aren't the same without a talking kite bursting out of somebody's body.
This stream brought to you by Honkai Star Rail. Please give me the bag, Honkai.
And they're not the same without people advertising that, hey, this game has got the best graphics on a mobile phone that really look no different from an Xbox 360 graphics with a certain advertised quote unquote game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Raid Shadow Legends. They sent me an offer through Stream Elements.
I wasn't going to say it because everybody knew what I was probably talking about.
I'm debating on taking it.
Vex.
I could turn it into top tier content, and because I will just clown on it.
Vex. They won't let you clown on it. They won't let you clown on it. And we have standards here.
We have standards?
Yes.
Luke, look at this podcast. My standards go lower and lower as my fucking bank account gets drier and drier till I get back to work. I'll be real. And that's capitalism's effect.
Yep. So, okay, wait. So we've been going for an hour and a half now?
Let me check the time clock on this. Hour 45. There's 2 topics left. And I just saw the lovely update from the crew for this. So the other major industry layoff this week was Escapist, which is a cornerstone of
Yeah, I was wondering when we were going to get to that because I felt like that would be a good topic to discuss. Personally, I really liked as much as I disagree with some of his reviews, I do like the fact that he just gets his opinions out. So he's like the Micro Machine guy with his reviews, and it's just a shame because it's they've got this IP now, they've got zero punctuation and that, but they haven't got the guy who is zero punctuation.
Yeah. So for context, everybody in the video team was laid off. Most of the editorial staff was laid off. There's about 50, 60 articles for mainstream media covering it at this point, which if you want to dig it up, you can dig it up. I'm part of their new Discord server because I followed zero punctuation since I was college age, right? And it's sad, right? Because this is a cornerstone of old media. This is essentially a version of G4 as well. They're that synonymous with games media. So I actually would probably follow them longer than that. Fucking same era of Red versus Blue.
Yeah, I remember I remember watching some of like Zero Punctuation as far back as when Yahtzee did his Oblivion review.
Yeah, honestly,
That's how.
yeah. Like I remember that video. So that's basically when I started watching it.
Yeah.
So like 2008 ish. Jesus fucking Christ, where does time go?
Yeah, we're old, Vex. We're old.
I see that every time. I have like a fucking account that pops up on Twitter, like this day in emo history, and being emo, in that alt culture. Every day I see that, I'm like, I just fucking put me in my grave already, like fucking like Bull for My Valentine shit, hitting 15 years old, like fucking Lincoln Park hitting close to 20. I'm like, I just need to be put down. This is where the horse gets old yellered, right? And that's kind of what's happening with Escapist right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
without the crew that makes your product marketable, you have no product, right?
This as much you can be crapped on this in this day and age, this would be like if Doug Walker decides to walk away from the nostalgia critic.
Please do.
Like,
Please
yeah,
do. Put it down.
Please. Okay. Yeah. But no. Not the point I'm trying to make is like if he walked away from it, but they still wanted to make nostalgia critic.
Right, and that's what's happening here basically, is because they still own the Zero Punctuation IP. He can't really do like Zero Punctuation, so I linked in the general gaming chat of the Discord, like the whole live stream, like an archive of it. If you want to watch, it's like an hour and 10 minutes. I might link it in the description of this video too for those want to watch it, because it goes over like all their plans, and they have like basically most of their IP. It seems like that wasn't Zero Punctuation. I think that was like part of the deal of when Yahtzee joined Escapist. I'm sure if he wanted to, he could buy it back, because clearly, it's been a successful thing, and they're not going to be able to do anything. In their Discord server, they've archived a bunch of the old videos just in case they try to nuke it off of the internet as well. Because a lot of them are like of the same mindset as me of like preserving media, which is smart. I love this pocket of the internet though, like where within 48 hours of them being laid off, that Discord server was so fast in like response time that they had to put slow mode on down to like 20 minutes. Like you could only send a message every 20 minutes because they had so much support pouring in. They had so many people signing up for their new Patreon. They had so many people just, rallying behind them, because that's like the level of the internet that most of our generation grew up in, where like it was a pocket in time where you could just sit down and be like in an 8-minute video, get your thoughts on, be a sarcastic prick, and you could sit down and riff on a game for that whole video, and it just come across as this like really poignant review. And then not to mention, like, they had all sorts of other projects that I didn't follow as deeply, like Adventure is Nigh was their D&D campaign. They had a bunch of other stuff that like film reviews and stuff like that. I know Steph Sterling was a big portion of their point in their early era of it. Miracle of Sound came out of Escapist. I'm sure a lot of you have heard their music. They do a lot of like game inspired covers and music in itself. They did one for God of War Ragnarok not too long ago. But like they brought a lot of like the current internet's content creators up, kind of like, as much as I clown on them now, like Rooster Teeth did. Like they were like the inspiration for me. Escapist was and mostly Zero Punctuation was like the inspiration for a lot of game reviewers. So seeing like so many people, rally behind them like right after such unfortunate news was really inspiring. I'm really looking forward to like their new project, which is called Second Wind, which is a funny, take on the fact that like they escaped the Escapist, Phoenix rising from the ashes. A lot of their like Patreon stuff is like really good if you want to go in and give them a like pledge over there, and they have like at least a plan to continue most of the content that they were doing over there without the corporate like you need to hit this many views per video kind of bullshit that they were having to deal with in the Escapist.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So I've got like all that shit like saved so I can put it in the description or in pinned comment on this podcast. If you want to go and support them. If you grew up with that era like Luke and I did, I don't know if you guys peeped any of that.
I mean, yeah, I did grow up in that time. I just wasn't as big into the Escapist compared to some other content creation. But I mean, I do respect the work they did because they were like a huge name while we were growing up, like you said.
Yeah, I respect the name too, though I don't think I've ever watched Zero Punctuation at all.
I
do respect the work.
It just wasn't my style of content.
I love sarcastic pricks because I am one. I used to have like a whole folder of like the gifts that Yahtzee would do of like the fucking shit going down the chute for like a terrible game. I would respond to. I got blocked by Outriders for tweeting that at them. It was such a mess of a game at launch. You couldn't even get into a server. I was just being a prick because I got early access to the game and couldn't even get in the game, and they're just like blocked. Which is fair, But like the whole like the meme right now is like Yahtzee drowning the game dev, and that's just like second one kind of like drowning Escapist basically because they have nobody to even make content for them at this point.
Yeah, and then they're gonna see how well Yachts is doing with this new project going in, and they're gonna be like, "Hey, do you want to come back to working with us?"
Absolutely not. After the second Nick, the editor in chief, got walked out, the whole fucking place resigned. Like,
yeah, it's like they don't really think in advance of like, oh, if we get rid of this guy, who's to say the others aren't just going to walk out from this well-established team, and then we shoot ourselves in the foot. Yeah, let's do it anyway.
Yeah, like the funny thing is, if like it hadn't been for Nick Caldarna, I'm butchering the guy's name. I'm sorry. If it hadn't been for him, like Escapist wouldn't even last it through COVID, right? Because they were hemorrhaging money. He turned the whole plan around, like everything that was going wrong with that channel. Started with the help of this crew, about 20 different series, and at the same time, like obviously, like the thing that makes Escapist the most views is Zero Punctuation because Yahtzee is like ingrained in video game culture. So, like, that was still the most viewed thing, so they kind of put Yahtzee back in the forefront of everything, and, like, that still wasn't good enough for the publication, so that they just said, you know what, you're done. And then everybody that had been screwed over by them, their projects got scrapped or, like, set on the back burner, they just walked out behind them. And, like, that just shows, like, the solidarity of a great team. I love that. Yeah, like massive props to them and go give them some support. That's all I can really weigh in on that because like they haven't really shown a whole lot of like what everything is other than like base plans. They're going to be doing another live stream this week. So let's just roll into the last little mini topic here, and this is a strange one. Crunchyroll adding games to their service.
Why?
Yeah, which I didn't know about till Vex told me right before we were streaming. So I guess.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like Crunchyroll has been involved in things outside of anime. Like they have manga on their service, and they have games as well. They actually do like publish a lot of mobile games for IPs that they own, like Eminence in Shadow, and I think they have like some other minor titles as well. And personally, like I was playing one of their gacha games for that they published, Princess Connect Redive, because they own the rights to the anime, so I guess they got the rights to the gacha publishing outside of Japan. And it was going well for like a while, but then they shut down. And the truth is, it's kind of pretty common for Crunchyroll to drop the ball on a lot of their mobile games, which is why I didn't even bother with the Eminence and Shadow one. So with this new service, it's similar to like what Netflix does, where if you're a subscriber on their higher tiers, then you can get access to like a game vault, which seems to be nothing original so far. But yeah, I think Vex can say more because he probably has that pulled up.
So I got the article here. Let's be real here. Like, this isn't the best lineup for a new product, but like you were saying, like Crunchyroll has like 85 million different things that they do, and they publicize basically fucking none of them. So they have a manga imprint. They don't really do shit with it.
Nope.
They have,
and they own exclusive license for that too.
I think they were the ones that were publishing Kill la Kill, like the Tacobones, for a while.
I think for a while, yeah.
It obviously finished. I own all 3 of them. 2 of them are hardcover because they came through the service called Omakase, and then the third one, like, I had to buy, and it was paperback, which is annoying from a collector's standpoint. Like, 2 hardback, 1 paperback, but we'll move on. They have rights to like a lot of like anime OP music, basically. So a lot of Lisa's music videos are on there. A lot of like your oral cigarette stuff's on there, stuff like that, right? So, but they don't really publicize that other than like the initial article of like, we have a music on our service now, bye. So they they did that, and then like, obviously they've had gacha games for a while now. I think Chrono Chronicles, I believe the name of it was. It's kind of anime.
Yeah, that's another one.
They did that. It was a fun game, and then it got canceled. Rage of Bahamut, they have the anime rights to that. It no longer has a NA server, and your stuff didn't transfer over to the global server.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd bring over the Dr. Stone gacha because they own the anime rights for that as well. So, but they haven't.
Yeah. So like the
Don't even get me started on that.
The titles they have right now are Princess Connect, which they canceled.
Yeah.
That was their last big one. They had River City Girls, Captain Velvet, Wolf Stride. It will also include in Bento and Behind the Frame, the finest scenery. Those are the 5 games that are going to premiere on this service. You're right. Like, it would be nice to see things like the Dr. Stone gacha. When the Black Clover one launches, they have the anime rights to that. They could put that on there. Maybe bundle in some like gems or something for stuff like that, right? As like an incentive for playing it through their service. I don't feel like they're going to do that because they're owned by Sony.
Yeah. To be fair, gacha games are designed to like get your money more than do what Game Pass or even like Apple Arcade does. Like, there's a reason Apple Arcade is like a separate service because it allows you to play games without microtransactions. Exactly. So I can understand those games not being there, but considering the amount of IPs that they have kind of rights to, I feel like they could. And also, I think they're owned by like Sony now. Yep. It should have the money to like do more, like with their service,
because they have basically a monopoly over the anime IP, right? Because they own Funimation. So like at least in the US, right? They have like the sole.
The biggest competitors probably like Hulu and Netflix.
Yeah, and like outside of like Funimation Studios, Bang Zoom is the biggest dubbing company, right? And that kind of really limits like what you could do from that perspective, because like you had, even back then, like you had Funimation and then Bang Zoom. Now you have Bang Zoom and Crunchyroll because they're like one entity.
And don't even get me started on all that, because it's like, okay, you've got Crunchyroll having like say season 2 of something on their server, but there's no season 1. No, you have to go to Funimation for that.
Don't even get me started. Like, I still have to have 2 separate fucking services, even though they're supposed to be one at this point.
That is like one of my biggest. I feel like that's just a big fu to everyone.
Yeah. But
Really
like, the funny thing is, like, there are about a half dozen other games they could have added to this instead of like throwing random ass like River City Girls on here, right? They're
Yeah,
like
and that's not to get way forward. Like I said, I got Apple Arcade originally for Shantae, so I love their games, but it's just kind of a weird pick.
right. It's one that got thrown on fucking Netflix too, so I mean it makes sense to put it wherever. But it's still random. Like, they just launched a new Gundam mobile game, right? That's one. They could have put Code Geass Lost Stories on there. It's another one that they just dropped a Gurren Lagann game. They could have thrown that on there. They could have thrown the again Reverie 1999, the new gacha game that fits in the anime aesthetic, right? We're supposed to get a Genshin anime, right? You know, that would be a perfect marketing tactic if they get the rights to it, right? Be like, hey, join here or play it here and get like, a free 10 roll, right? They could use it like
I
that.
mean, the weird thing is, it would be something that both Hoyo and Crunchy would do. It's like you get 1 10 roll for joining.
Here's your first crack rock. There goes any ads. But like, realistically, that's the way that they hook you in, and that's why I feel like it's something that Crunchyroll could do with these games. It's like get you, because like gacha games exist solely for monetization. You're right, and that could be something they could do to kind of get you playing them, get you a little taste. And then you could be like, oh, now I want this character or this character, and then it could be a great way for them to. I feel like I'm pitching gambling to kids here. I feel dirty. Well, like, that's the logic behind it, right? That's why, like, Overwatch was so, debated way back in the, when it was being debated. Like, you had no idea what the odds were in there. You could get something, trash in there. You could not get a skin, right? So, like, that's why, like, loot boxes are there. But, like, with gacha rolls, it's a little different because you still get, you know a bit more of what you're getting, right? Most of the banners nowadays just show, like, these are the characters that are available here. These are, like, and then in Genshin, like, you get weapons thrown in with that or whatever. But, like, you can do stuff like that and, give people their first taste to see if they'll like the game or how these characters play, etc., etc. And it'd be like a good way to handle the service a little bit better than what they're doing right now anyway. But like, Crunchyroll's just going to let it sit on the back burner and be like, we did the thing, look at us. I feel weird dunking on Crunchyroll because we're primarily like an anime channel, but like, this is fucking dog shit. I hope it goes better,
But I don't have the biggest faith that'll happen.
No,
But at the same time,
Neither.
like, does anybody talk about Netflix gaming? Like, it's essentially
yeah,
the
it's
same
weird because
thing.
Netflix even does have like a
there's
decent
Netflix gaming.
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. But yeah, Netflix itself has like a decent library of stuff, and yet it's still surprisingly like not caught on.
Let me just look at Netflix really quick and see what's like on their top gaming right now, right? Because I got it pulled up here.
That could be interesting. And I guess while Vex is doing that, my last topic was just on the day of recording this is like the first anniversary of Sonic Frontier. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick because I'm pretty excited for like what's to come next with Sonic and what Frontiers has established. If anyone's like on our Discord server, like my status hasn't changed for over a year, and I just realized that like with the 1 year anniversary of this game coming out. And yep. So I just wanted to bring up that real quick in our discussions.
You got Trivia Burst, Trivia Quest. You got fucking.
I did play some of that. It was fun.
You got Cat Burglar, which is an interactive thing. You got the Minecraft story mode.
Yeah, that one really fit because it is just like an interactive story.
It doesn't really show a lot of games on PC, unfortunately. There's a placeholder here for the Tomb Raider anime though. Now that's available to like put on your watch list, so that's pretty cool. I'm doing that real quick so I don't forget it.
Nice.
I know they did like a Love Island thing for a while. I'm not seeing that here. It might just be like on TV only kind of thing. The Cat Burglar is a trivia game. You can do Spirit Ride Along playthrough. Let's see. There we go. Video games. Oh, that just leads right into like video game IPs. But yeah, like there's like a half dozen of them that are on here that I saw when I was like flipping around the other night in my bedroom. Or
Let's see. I believe they also should have their
it probably would help if I just looked on my phone instead of on
yeah.
my desktop.
I kind of deleted the Netflix app off of mine thing because I just recently canceled my sub. They have
So
not doing very good.
Bloons Tower Defense, Dead Cells, Too Hot to Handle, World of Goo remaster. I didn't even know they had a remaster. Sonic Prime Dash, Transformers Forged to Fight, Exploding Kittens is on here. Stranger Things puzzle game. A fuck ton of like match games. Stranger Things 1984. Can make all the jokes in the world right now, but I'm not going to. Moonlighter got added on here. Valiant Hearts. Well, these are like decent
those are
IPs.
good ones.
Tomb Raider Reloaded. A Vikings Valhalla game. Arcanium, which it looks like I don't know how this one passed like censures, but that logo there, I'm just gonna put in like the mod chat because it literally looks like it's something that's copyrighted. I'm pretty sure you can tell what that logo looks like if you're a Blizzard fan.
Yeah. Huh. That is surprising.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, there's some decent things on here, right? Like, but nobody talks about it, and I feel like that's how this is going to get handled. Is what I'm getting at. And it's unfortunate because like there's a lot of potential for this to bleed to an anime version of this. But I don't see it ever happening.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but also it's kind of just Crunchyroll is just not very good at doing anything outside of anime. They struggle with that in and of itself.
Honestly,
because like new episode will come out without subtitles pretty regularly this season,
And then the
and
subtitles
it's just
will
like
be,
that's the one job. Yeah.
And then the subtitles will be wrong at times.
Yeah, that too. It's like that's the one thing I'm paying you for, Crunchyroll.
yeah.
Subtitling my anime.
Like honestly, like the last year and a half, I feel like their subtitles have gone absolutely downhill. But their dub quality has
and I think
improved.
that is part of. That is, I think, also just part of like the lack of like any real competition. Like they don't really feel the need to be very good. So that's why, like, I don't expect them to do very good in industries where they aren't very well experienced in, because they don't really seem like they're coming out to compete. Like I remember when Google Stadia came out. Apparently, the tech was actually good for the streaming, but the way they handled like IPs, despite being freaking Google, like they couldn't even develop good games.
There is literally
and Amazon couldn't even, despite like owning Twitch and all the stuff they own the internet on. So if they can't do it, I don't see Crunchyroll like making like a huge impact in like the gaming space.
So two things on the Google Stadia. My Google Stadia controller is still like my primary controller for PC because it feels that good. It's like
I've heard it's good.
And secondly, there's a website called killedbygoogle.com, and it goes down the history of every project that Google has started and abandoned. It is as long as like an average fucking doctorate's thesis. I'm not joking.
I believe it. Because, there used to be so many things that on Google that just You almost believe, like, did I just imagine that service
Right?
existed?
No, like it really is. Like early Microsoft is like that too, but they've kind of got their shit together lately.
Like, remember Google Lens was a thing? I'm pretty sure that's dead by now.
Google Lens, Google Glass. Job I used to work at used to make the frames for that. Like we still had the whole ass like totes that we were just using to catch scrap parts and runners. Because like Google didn't want them back because they weren't making them anymore, so they were just sat under a machine and like cut off plastic. It was just funny to me. Like I took a picture of it. I think it was on my old Twitter of like, remember this? Like I wanted them like like early in college because it was such a cool concept of like having AR glasses.
Yeah.
But like one, I have such a unique prescription that like I can't even really get like blue light tint in them if my prescription gets any worse anymore. So I couldn't imagine paying for the lenses for that.
Yeah, I mean, just glasses in general, because I also wear them. It's just like expensive to get even just like basic features of glasses. Last time I went to get like a new pair to update my prescription, because it's been a while. The lady at the store was like being like, okay, you can get these kind of special lenses for when you drive around at night. And I'm like, I don't really go out at night that often, so that's not really necessary. They talked about different lenses and frames, and I'm like, I just needed to see.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my main thing. And I
want-
also need to be able to have money for other things
Yeah.
besides glasses.
You want transitions? I'll be an extra $165 on top of the already like $400 you're paying for the glasses. And you're lucky if your insurance covers. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Then there's me who's
And
like,
I mean, I do have decent insurance.
Yeah.
At least for my glasses. Like, weirdly, it worked well for that, but it doesn't work well for other things. Insurance is weird in America. I say that
Absolutely.
as someone in the industry. Makes
Yeah.
no sense.
like the funny thing is like I tried wearing like VR headsets with like my giant chunky glasses because I had like the Oakleys because you know I like having good glasses so that won't get damaged at work. But like I had to adjust the headset so much that it basically barely sat on top of my head too. That's another reason why I sold my Oculus. And now they make fucking lens inserts for VR, I'm finding, because I'm getting them advertised to me on like Facebook and Instagram. I'm like, that would have been helpful like years ago, and maybe I would have kept my headset.
Yeah, I mean, VR tech, I don't think they put as much thought into when it first came out, and they're just slowly figuring things out.
Yeah, I got my glasses I wear now from Zenny. I think I paid like $50 for them. That's with like no insurance coverage either, because I'm like,
That's not bad, yeah.
yeah. But like that's who makes the like lens inserts now, which is really cool if you're somebody that wants to dive into VR and you know wear thick ass glasses like you know me.
I then look like an idiot on Twitch.
You know, I'd rather look like an idiot on Twitch without like my headset bulging off my face than you know like breaking $1,000 worth of equipment, you know. But
So, yeah, any other topics we had, or is that just about it?
that's
Because I think
all-
we've been streaming for like 2 hours now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've got to go away in a bit because I'm doing something else.
I believe that was the last topic for this. Because like
Okay.
we really can't dive too deeply into the Game Awards until they announce the stuff.
Yeah, that'll be a potential future stream. And I know Luke wanted to talk about Pokemon at some point. Maybe when something relevant comes up with that, we can talk
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, we could.
And then
yeah,
Ann
we could
Arbor's
talk about-
here, but not been saying much. But we'll probably talk about Digimon when more Digimon news comes
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'll say my final words and then peace out. So, gaming industry, keep change up things, but keep stuff the same, and everyone just keep on gaming.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Peace, Luke.
That's a great
like,
way to put it.
Yeah, like stop letting everybody that's worthwhile go, and maybe maybe look into Meta collecting all the data for your VR shit because they're diving way back down into Cambridge Analytica levels of data gathering. And with that, peace.